Hey guys, I am giving you this OG interview I did with my good friend Eli Wild nearly 14 months ago. This was one of the first interviews I did when I started the Objection Box. A lot of the principles that I spoke about then, I still use today. The big one, obviously, overcoming the person, not the objection. There's a tremendous amount of golden nuggets in there. Somewhere on this video, there's going to be a link to come and speak to me and the team if you want to learn what we do, how we do it, where we do it, and why we are the Objection Box Kings. Also, if you don't know who Eli is, I don't know if you're living under a rock, but Eli is a very, very good friend of mine, but he has also been Tony Robinson's head salesman for nearly 10 years. He's built over 100 million in revenue and a tremendous salesman in his own right. If you want more information, if you want anything else, guys, there's going to be a link in between now and then. Enjoy the interview, enjoy the golden nuggets, and see you on the other side. Bye-bye.
If you want to make a tremendous amount of sales and you want to make a tremendous amount of money, you can just spend all day overcoming objections. But if you actually overcome the person and actually help that person overcome himself, then that's how it all kind of binds together.
Hello, and welcome back to the Everything is Influence podcast, where on each episode, we get you somebody who's killing it in the world of influence, as I see it. And as always, we go into the 4 levels of influence. How is this individual influence themselves? How have they taken the clarity and certainty they've generated inside of themselves and begin the process of real influence, where they take what's inside of them and transferring that to another human being, that's sales. How do they do that to a group, be it their company? And ultimately, how have they done it when they're not even there? That is distilling down the mission and values that live inside of them into the people and process around them so they can become a legend. So without any further ado, today's guest is Mr. Bill Walsh. How are you, sir?
How are you, buddy? Brilliant. I'm amazing, as they say. I'm absolutely amazing. It's a privilege to be here with you, buddy.
Awesome,
privilege
man.
to be here.
Let's get right into it for everybody. Tell everybody what you do, what your business is, and we're going to kind of reverse engineer how you got here. So what's your business? What do you do?
Yeah, so over the last probably 2.5 months, 3 months, I have built the Objection Box, which is a sales training company that is coaching people predominantly in the arts of objection handling and building out from there. We have kind of 4 big pillars that we overcome, 4 big pillars that are getting our guys into a position where they're making sales hands over fist, which are objection handling and action questions, future pace, and then obviously finding the North Star. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're building. You know, we're slowly getting there, but yeah, it's a lot of fun over the last couple of months.
Yeah, so I'll jump in there really quick. It's like a 4-step process, and I've seen scripts that have a bajillion steps. Your jam is that most of this stuff, and I watch some of your content, you're like, most of the stuff out there is just nonsense. And you're like, here's the grassroots, bare bones, here's what you need. What are those things again that people need?
Yeah, so I go back to France, and when I came into sales not that long ago, like COVID obviously wiped me out in fitness. When I walked into sales, everyone had the idea that you go top down. I come from military, as you know, so from a very young age, I was just told to do the hardest thing first. Like, we would be dropped on one side of the mountain at 17 years of age, and we would have 500 pounds between 4 or 5 of us, and we're told, get that weight over the other side of the ridge, and you're on a timer. And from that age, you're like always in a position of always doing the hardest thing first. When I walked into sales, the hardest thing for me at that time was objection handling. You can have all the right process, top to bottom, on the left-hand side. But when it came to the end of a call, which is the most important part of the call, and if you can't help that person overcome their own fears, their limitations, and their hesitation, then you're always going to get a no. And I didn't get paid when I got no's. My family didn't get fed when I got no's. So I just quickly said, okay, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to train this, and then we're going to build out from there. That's how it was built. That's what I did. And that's, you know, what maybe, and again, I use bunny ears all the time because success is always based upon someone else's opinion. So that's what I did that helped me get where I am today. You know, so that's what we do.
The main focus is objections. Like, how do you handle objections? And, we all know the typical objections. Think about it: spouse, money, time. Do you have like a different syntax for each one of them?
The big 6 for me.
What's made you successful? Like, let me just ask this: what's made you successful in this? And you're obviously killing it with your students. Yeah. Is it the repetition of the training of like just focusing on objections, or is it like something unique that you're doing in the art of how it's handled, or a bit of both? Kind of, why have you had so much success focused on this?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a combination, to be honest with you, Eli. I learned very, very quickly the objection is being given by who?
By the prospect?
By the prospect, yeah, by the person.
Yeah.
And every sales training that I've seen is always based on overcoming that objection and then that objection and that objection. And then I realized, hold on a minute, there's something missing here. Why don't I just overcome the person? Why don't I just overcome the person? Because if I overcome the person, what's that person going to do? He's going to overcome his own objections. So what I need to do throughout the whole sales process is give that person clarity, give that person confidence, and give that person's, certainty in making a decision that's going to betterment his family and his own future. And that's I've broken it down into the 4 stages as we've gone over. But at each stage, I'm always giving that person enough of conviction and certainty in their decision making that ultimately allows them to make a better decision. And I learned that very, very quickly that, if you want to make a tremendous amount of sales and you want to make a tremendous amount of money, you can just spend all day overcoming objections. But if you actually overcome the person and actually help that person overcome himself, then that's how it all kind of binds together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. And we've talked before, I think of the objections that most people say, they're dealing with externals, be it people or time or money, their calendar, situation. But, the common denominator for anybody doing something in life is themselves. They've been the foundation for all of their successes and failures. And so dealing with the person, explain on that a little bit more. Like, how do you mean dealing with the person, getting them to overcome themselves?
Yeah. So if you think of it, right, if someone comes to me and says, I just need to go speak with my partner, is that a true objection? More often than not, it's not. Do you know what I mean? And so how you steer it away from that is, I'm not asking you to climb Mount Everest. What I am asking you to do is to take enough confidence and certainty and conviction in your decision making to actually make the first step. If I can help you make the first step, then I can help you make the second step and the third step and fourth and fifth. Before you know it, we're halfway up the mountain. So I've always wanted people not necessarily to overcome everything, but overcome the immediate decision that needs to be made, which is ultimately, do you commit to yourself making a change? Yes or no? Yes. If that is the case, then what do you need to do from here in this exact moment in time to put yourself in that best position? Well, I've got to commit. I've got to put a line in the sand. Of course you do. Well, if that is the case, then do this, 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 and this. Before you know it, I've overcome the partner objection, but I've also overcome him. So, I mean, and before you know it, he's actually invested in himself, which ultimately allows him to invest in his future. So it's what I've always wanted to do is take the big decision away and make mini decisions. And there's something in my training that I always say to people: when you get an objection, it's a fancy word of what, Eli, as you know?
Fear.
It is fear, but it's a fancy word of that person saying no.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Objections are just a situation where that person is saying no to you, but they're doing it in a way that they don't want to offend you because we spent the last hour to 45 minutes with them, right?
Yeah.
So in their mind, the conversation is no. So what I've realized from people is, if you're trying to go from a no to 1,000,000% yes, that's a very hard jump, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going from a no to a $10,000 decision. What I train and develop people on is to go from a no to a mini yes. If you get mini yeses, you're getting multiple mini yeses, which ultimately create what? The big yes.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've kind of really zoned in on, because, you can't, more often than not, go from someone who's completely shut down, completely not wanting to be in the conversation, to making a $10,000, $20,000, or $100,000 decision just like that. So you got to turn their no's back into yeses. If you turn it back into yeses, then they actually start making a bigger yes.
I love that. Taking a note here. It's a great metaphor, taking them up the mountain, just a bunch of mini yeses to get them up there, from no to possibly, maybe, would this help? But the thing is with you, and I love your style, and I know, who you've worked with and everything. A lot of people join the program that you initially sold for. And I do believe in using some softeners here and there, maybe, possibly, kinda. And, it's interesting. Some people use this language of softeners. I want to talk about this. And they're a weak person using weak language.
Yeah.
I think if you're a strong person and you can use some of this softener language, it kind of mellows it out a bit. But you're a strong person, strong internal frame, and you use strong language and all of this. So it's I think that's why you've gotten to, based on your personality and what you teach people, allow people to shorten their call times and just get right to it. Because you have an interesting take on that. What is your take on softeners in general? Maybe kind of possibly might be appropriate.
There's a certain situation for them at the front of a conversation when that person doesn't know you and you don't know that person. You're both trying to feel each other out. I think from anywhere from making a decision to actually closing the call, it goes away. So you will never hear me at the end of a conversation saying if, but, maybe, could, would, should. Because I say this to everyone all the time, right? If I'm uncertain, if that person is uncertain about the decision, and the language that I start using is if, but, maybe, could, would, should, what have I just subconsciously brought into the conversation?
Uncertainty.
I brought in more uncertainty. Now, if that person has been uncertain in the decision making and I bring more uncertainty into the conversation, then we're just in a situation where we're both in an uncertainty world. Now, I don't know about you, Eli, but have you ever made a 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 decision in uncertainty? Probably not. No. Yeah. So if I'm the leader of this conversation, I'm the leader of this call, which I am, not this conversation, but the conversations that I have and you have, well, I have to be strong enough in a position to say yes rather than no. But even a no is a certainty word, isn't it? It's a definitive word. It's no or it's yes. So you will never hear me say if, but, maybe, could, would, should, because it's not helping that person. I will either say can or will. Those are my two words. That's all I say. Can or will. I either will do it or I can do it. That's all I say. Because that gives that person something that they don't have, which is not coming from inside them. It has to come from me. It has to come internally for me to give it externally to that person, which is a confidence, certainty, and conviction that you have to walk into conversations with.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I used to say in one of my talks all the time, it's not can you, because what you can do is amazing. It's will you. That's why it's called willpower. The power to use your conscious will to move in the direction that you want, or to not exercise your conscious will and stay where you're at. That's ultimately the decision you want to make today. Stay where you're at, move forward. The question is, will you do what it takes? And so, will and can. I like that. As it relates to sales, I know you're getting people up to speed really quick, taking them through your process. People come into your training and they've usually done some sales training in the past, and are you having to retrain them? What are you seeing outside of just weak language? What are you seeing? Why are you getting such great results with people? What do you see as like the biggest, dumb thing in the industry? Like what are people doing? It could be entrepreneurs, salespeople. What is the gap that you're filling? What specifically are people messing up on?
Yeah. I think a big part of people's sales structures and cycles is a lot of redundancy. Yeah. And I say that with respect. I think a lot of probing and clarifying into absolutely nowhere. And I think that's based on, different trainings that people have gone through. They're always in a position, probe and clarify everything. Yeah. But like if you say to me, like, I'm out walking the dog and he's on a leash and I have to probe and clarify into that, like, where is it going? That conversation is going absolutely nowhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? And before you know it, you're 25, 30 minutes, 40 minutes into a probe and clarifying conversation. You're pissing off the prospect. You don't know where you're going, and we're all just losing time. So what I've done and what I do and what I've always done is I've just cut out all the redundancy, made it very, very simple. Where do you want to be? What are your goals? Can I get you there? Do you want to make a change? And then I'm asking questions based on those. Because everything else I've just seen, it just doesn't work. And like, if I asked somebody to come in and I said, if I was looking at their calls and I said, why are you asking that question there? 9 out of 10 people wouldn't understand why. I was just told to probe and clarify. Told, like, to where? Like, what? To what end? To what end state are you probing and clarifying to? That's the problem. People are just getting information and taking it at face value. And I know the information, and it's not all meant for what it's actually been taken for. There's an awful lot of goodness in that and probing and clarifying at certain situations. But what I see time and time again is every single answer is being probed and clarified. They're like, what the fuck is going on here? This has gone off the walls. You know what I mean?
When you said this, how did you mean by that? Like, can I ask?
You're like, what did you mean by that? Yeah. like at every single question.
Yeah.
Like because what you just deny the prospect, and he won't keep giving you information because he has to keep clarifying it every single time that he gave you information. The sky is blue. What did you mean by the sky is blue? Well, the sky is fucking blue. Cowboy. Like, well, what do you mean? Like, the sky is blue. I walk outside, it's blue. Like, what more information do you need? So that's a big thing. I think a lot of probing and clarifying, and the biggest thing then as well is people not knowing where they're going with the questions. Do you know what I mean? They're just driving for the sake of driving, and they don't have a clear indication of where the hell they need to go, or what they need to get to, or where they even need to be. You know, that's a big issue.
Yeah, let's go a step back a bit. You only been in sales for 18 months, 2 years, something like that?
Well, COVID was the catalyst, yeah.
Okay, what were you doing before?
2020. So I started off in college. I got a scholarship to go to a college in Ireland, just based on being good at sport, as you do. You know, never
What'd you
really.
play?
I played hurling and football, so that's an Irish sport that we have in Ireland. It's very, obviously you might not know, but it's like lacrosse and rugby. If you want to have a look at it.
That sounds pretty tough.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. All my fingers broke, ankles broke, shoulders popped out, the whole lot, cut from here. Yeah. I had my ear nearly cut off one time, but so that's what I got a scholarship to go there. I spent 4.5 months there, and then I got a position in military. When I went for military, there was an embargo in Ireland at the time, because we just come out of the 2008 crash. Remember the 2008 crash that just nearly wiped out everybody? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you were immune to that because you were too good at sales. So everyone else didn't. But so when I went for military, there was an embargo. So we weren't hiring people anywhere or anything. So I was quite lucky to get into college. That was the route people were going. They weren't getting jobs and stuff. And when I went for the Irish Army, there was 10,000 people applied. Wow. There was 40 spaces, 40 spaces. And I was one of the 40. And I was 17 years of age at the time. So I've always I've always backed myself. You know, I've always been in a position where I've always kind of gone against the grain at things, you know. So
how did you get one of those spots?
How did I get one of those spots? I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. I've always pushed the dial. I've always done a little bit more.
It was for a military position, yeah?
Military position, yeah. So you have to be very good at fitness.
Physical training?
Physical
cognitive training? Did they interview you? Something like that?
Yeah. So all of those things. So physical aspect, mental aspect, medical aspect, and then an interview as well. So you're put through a rigorous system, all right? 10,000 people, you know what I mean, for 40 spaces. You know, so that's what we did. So I spent 4.5 years there, and I moved to London then at 21 years of age. I had my little girl, Tallulah. And when I went to London, which in my opinion is probably the second hardest city in the entire world to be a personal trainer. Number one is obviously New York.
Both are tough, yeah.
So when I went to London, I had 2 numbers on my phone. I had my partner Grace and her dad, who was Mickey. And I built the business out of that. I spent 7 years building the business, and then COVID wiped me off the board. Wow. And then I fell into sales. That's how I fell into sales. So that was the summer of 2020. And then went full-time in sales in 2021, January 2021. And then in March, then I stepped into 7-Level. That's what I did, and ran that for 18 months as such. Yeah. That's how fast it was.
I was connecting with Hannah Chan.
Yeah.
I think that was your first account you sold for. And I was talking to her a lot. And because we knew each other from the Traffic and Funnels company. And she says, yeah, they got this guy, Bill. He's awesome. He's really aggressive. Not like these other guys they've given me. She's like, this guy is a closer. You do fitness and all of that. That's cool. So that was your first time just like selling anything really?
That was the first time. Yeah. Other than my own, I did Hannah's account on my own for the first month. First month I went full time. I did that, and then walked in then to Jeremy's, and ran 7-Level as the sales guy there.
Yeah. It's from how you started out to where you are today. What do you think has evolved the most in your process or in you? Like, what's shifted inside of you to help you create this level of leadership? Because everybody listening, they're salespeople, they're sales leaders, and everybody's looking to level up. And you've done it so fast, from your initial account to now managing, and you went up to a level and now you got your own jam. What have been the biggest distinctions to help you get from imagine your first day of sales to where you are now?
To where we are now. Yeah. It's probably cliche to say it, Eli, and it's probably a bit douchey to say it, but I've always been somewhat of a leader. No matter where I've gone, even on sports teams, I was always the captain. I was always the person that scored. I was always the person that, took on that responsibility to help people. Even the team that I have now, I literally take it in my responsibility to help them get paid more. And, I'd rather sacrifice myself to a certain element and give it to them. And so I've always kind of been in that position where I've naturally just been somewhat of a leader, naturally been someone who can take on the slack and just, take it on my shoulders and run with it. But I suppose the biggest thing is, in sales, that's a natural progression, because if you feel you're a leader and if you have those leadership qualities in yourself, then it's very easy to do sales. Do you know what I mean? It's very easy to help and influence somebody on a call, because it's just who you are as a person. It's who you are as an individual. So I suppose for me, it's been definitely cultivated and matured and developed with the people that I've worked with, Matt and Jeremy and Marco. I know we've all differences at the moment and whatever it is, but I've really, really developed under those guys, really looked to those as leaders in their own right, took an awful lot away from an awful lot of people, even yourself. Look at you, and it's something I have always emulated is that leadership and that qualities that you possess, and how you're able to cultivate audiences and all that kind of stuff, and all that can be learned, you know what I mean? But learning will only get you a certain stage. You get to a position where everyone's at the same education. How can some people are just that bit better? And that's that natural ability, I think, that some people have, and some people you just can't train it into. You obviously have that natural ability. There's some people that have it and some people that don't. So to be honest and answer the question, I don't know what I've done, to be quite honest. It's just this is just it. I don't come to work, if that makes sense. You're saying to yourself, what does that even mean? Like, I don't think when I start talking to people in this capacity that it's work. It's just who I am. Even when I'm talking to my girls, it's just who their dad is. Do you know what I mean? So I've never really deviated from, and you hit something there a minute ago, that, certainty and, internal, conviction that you have in yourself. I've always kind of had somewhat of that. So I don't, so that's my answer. I don't know if that answers it, but hopefully it does. So I don't know what I've done. It's just the leadership in you.
Yeah, you've natural leadership ability. And I think, obviously with what you did, getting in the military, in sport, it's everybody. I meet top performers, people that I think are impressive from all walks of life. And while they're completely different people, there are similar values, desire, leadership, competitiveness a little bit, not in a sense of like wanting other people to lose, but really liking. Like I loved it when I sold on a team and people were better than me, because then I was like, I want to learn from this person, and then I want to beat them, but not beat them so that I can be better than them. It's just like, I want to like just get in the game. And I love this sense of camaraderie. And I liked, getting beat sometimes. Jim Rohn, who was Tony's mentor, has this really awesome quote, and it's in a training of his. I don't know tell me if you've heard this. He talks about when you start out in sales or in business, he's talking about the law of averages. He's like, let's say that you get 9 out of 10 and I only get 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
Well, he says, well, next week, that means that I just need to talk to, if you're getting 9 out of 10, that means that I just need to talk to 10 times as many people next week. Yeah. And I'm going to beat you. Yeah. And he says, no matter what, I'm going to beat you because I'm not going to give up. And he says, and that's noble of me. It's noble of me to beat you because you learn more by losing than by winning. So I wish to give you that opportunity to let you lose. So he says, you learn more by losing than by winning. So I'm going to give you that opportunity. You're about to learn. And, it's just that psychology you're helping people by being the best. And I think people that really want to serve, they don't just want to be the best, like money in the bank account or school or on board. Like they have an internal drive to be their best and to lead by example by doing the grunt work. And that's why they stay up, they create the slides, they create the training, not just to make money, but it's like, hey, here's what I learned. I want to share this with you. And then charging those people appropriately is how you build a business in this space.
There's a lot of pride as well, aren't there? Like there's a lot of pride in knowing that you can help people. I've always had that, even when I was a personal trainer, I used to coach ladies who were 4 stone overweight, who've been overweight their entire life, to try and keep that person under restraint now for 30 weeks to lose 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds. Now I get an awful lot of pride and I get an awful lot of that endorphins of someone coming to me and say, hey, Bill, I've just halved my call time and made a piff. After a while, you hit the nail on the head there. After a while, money is money. Do you know what I mean? But there has to be something more in it than just making money. I'm very fortunate that's where I'm at now, is that I get a tremendous amount of satisfaction by seeing other people win. And it's great because if you have that amount of influence and that amount of education and knowledge that you can pass on to people, that's what gets you up out of bed in the morning. But there's a fear as well, though, aren't there? Yeah. Fear drives me, and I always say it all the time, and I'm not afraid to say it. Fear drives me every day. The fear of losing it all drives me every single day. Gets me out of the bed early, gets me scared. And someone said to me today, one of my guys, Adam, because I'm in Lisbon at the moment for 5 weeks. I've just brought my family off, and that's the beauty of it. When you do good stuff, when you make good money, you can do whatever the hell you like. But my mum and dad came out a couple of days ago, and Adam, who works with me, he said to me, are you happy that your mum and dad are there? And I said, I'm indifferent to it. And he said, he was laughing. And I said, you know me, Adam, I don't get super high and I don't get super low. I'm always on the ticker. I'm always in a position where I don't allow things to go super high and I don't allow it to go super low, because if I do both, then it clouds things, and there's a constant level of fear every day to always do better and to keep going, Do you have that? Or what do you have? What drives you? That's a good question for you now.
It's, I've done so much exploring on this, and I think, like, for me, I've always wanted to do well. And I think, I've talked to a lot of really successful people, there's all this self-development hubbub about, like, never say anything negative to yourself. But then you see, like, David Goggins, he's looking in the mirror, he's like, you're a fucking pussy. Like, you got to step the fuck up, being really negative to himself, and it drives him. And I've talked to, people that are pretty much billionaires, and they said the reason they got there is from their insecurity. Like, they're massively insecure. And so for me, I think, because there's people that just want to, like, be heart mission and change the world. And I've got that in me for sure, but I've also got all the negative stuff too. Like, I have all the negative stuff. I have the good stuff in my heart, the negative stuff in my brain. It's like the insecurity, the fear, the doubt, never thinking that I'm good enough, people pleasing, wanting to give too much. And so I have done the best I can to do a lot of evaluation and on myself. And I think that's really armed me. All of my insecurities and fears have armed me with the tools that I need to influence, because I know other people have the same shit too. So I feel compassion for them, and so I now look at my own insecurities, because I got them. And it really makes me, I sit and I think, and I'm just like, other people probably have this shit too. So now I know how to wound them, because I know what my wounds are. And so for me, I try to constantly have, like, a carrot and a team, like something I'm chasing after every day. And I write down my few things the night before, because my monkey mind will just focus on, like, a bajillion different things and nothing gets done. And so I've got to be scheduled and organized. But, it's like, I think at the end of the day, a lot of success is just being happy with the people you surround yourself with. And I've been, for me, it started out like, I'm just a huge Tony Robbins fan. And I wanted to be the number one and all that, but ultimately I wanted to help the world. And I figured the best way I could do that was exposing people to this man. So I was selling a product to people, selling this man, Tony Robbins, because I wanted to make an impact. And I didn't think I'd ever meet Tony initially, but I got so good at fulfilling the mission that was in my heart. And that was it. And then I got a connection. So I think that, for me, it just came from wanting to be of value to people, but also the insecurity of not feeling like I was valuable, which was a good thing and a bad thing. Because when I was selling Tony, I could sell some Tony, but initially selling myself, I couldn't do it. I was really good at selling Tony. And I was teaching, when I'd go into companies and charge a lot of money, I was teaching Tony's content. And then when I was with Tony, I would teach pretty much the same content, heavily influenced by him, but massively less because I was selling me, not him. Yeah. So I recognize those gaps. And I think the part of success for anybody, it's finding your gaps internally or externally in your business or your process. And then internally inside of yourself, your values, your character, your leadership, income, being, your get set. So I'm always looking at these things and learning so much every day. So I think
you ever solve it? Do you think you ever get to that place where you don't feel insecure and that you don't have fears? Because that's something I battle with every day. Do you think you'll ever get to a position where, you're just at peace with yourself?
I think there's moments of it. And I think when I talk to really successful people, they definitely have moments of it. But, it's like one of my buddies says, people say life's a marathon, not a sprint. He's like, no, it's not true. It's actually a marathon of sprints. Like you sprint, rest, rest. It's a marathon of sprints. And I think in those pauses, you find peace, but then there's another thing. And I think it's just in somebody that like, once I've done this sprint, push and drive, and then there'll be like a moment of success, but then immediately it's like, you have to have that next thing. Otherwise you don't feel like you're doing anything. And it's like water gets stagnant when it just sits there. And I think that, we've only got so much time on this planet. And then when you're sitting there, it starts being like, well, what am I doing with my life? And I'm just kind of wasting time. I need to do something. And so, it's an interesting thing. I talk to a lot of successful people, and I think that there's different emotions that drive all of them, but the consistent emotion in the psyche of the most successful people in the world that I've seen, it's in there a bit, is repressed anger. Because it's like something there where they're just like driving through something, like a Elon Musk, or, it's like something happened to them where they're just like, you know what, F it, I'm just going to push through this thing. And it's an interesting thing that you begin to notice. And I definitely have that in myself, but I don't think it ever fully goes away. I think that there's moments, but I think once it's deep in your psyche, it's there, unless you go meditate on the side of the mountain for the rest of your life. And I think those people can do that. But that's a whole different direction in life.
Different ball game. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to be respectful of your time. With what you've done, you focus on objections first, and you're helping people. I've seen the results that you're putting out there. So I reached out to you. We met over in London about a month ago. I was like, man, what are you doing differently? Because the results you're putting out are just insane. I was like, man, and you sent me some of your training, and I can see why it's so powerful, because you're just head on, no fluff. And I think the industry really needs what you're putting out there. As far as the process of influence, sales, making money, and you mostly help salespeople, I just want to ask you this. What are some things that I didn't ask you, or what's something I didn't ask you that would be useful to people to know about the process of you being a, 5-figure a month salesperson? Like, what do people need to know to hit that level as soon as possible? What's something I didn't ask you that I should have?
Yeah, there's a great question. Look, there's what I want people to understand, and this is something that I've coached on, and something that I have to experience, and you experience it daily as well. When you start coaching people, you start developing people, and you've developed hundreds and thousands of people, right? And what you will notice is people trying to talk like you, people trying to have your mannerisms, people trying to sound like Eli. Mm-hmm. And I see that with myself. I see that with myself now in the capacity of who I'm coaching. They call it Billism. Mm-hmm. And we joke about it. But what I want people to understand is that it will only get you so far. Because at the end of it all, you're still your own person. And we're all so individual that you have to build out your own individuality into what you do. Yes, you can take snippets from this person and that person and that person, but you got to come together and you got to figure it out for yourself. Because there's no point trying to sound like me. There's no point trying to talk like Eli. There's no point trying to, have the same body language as Eli or that powerful speaking that he does. So the biggest thing that I want people to do is, yes, get educated, yes, get developed, yes, get skilled, but don't forget yourself as well. Don't forget who you are as a person, what you bring to the table, who you are as an internal driver, because that's really the power. Yes, you can take snippets from this person and that person, and the power of bringing it all together is how you manifest it in yourself. And that's something that I really want for everyone, because if you can do that effectively, you will make money, and you'll make a lot of money. And we both know there's a lot of money in this industry to be made, but you can't do it on the back of someone else in that capacity to the level that you want to go. Yes, you can do it, and you can make your 5, 10, 15s. But when you want to get to 20, 25, 30, 45, 50, or hundreds, whatever, on a consistent basis, you have to go against the grain. You have to be your own person. So that's a big thing.
Finding your own internal voice. What do you think stops people from, because it's like you might see a Tony or you or somebody else, and people start to model their mannerisms and their speech, and you are saying their words, their script, all of that, but there's their energy and their essence. And sometimes it's a double-edged sword of modeling. Yeah. You end up losing yourself in the process of trying to learn from another.
Correct. Yeah.
How does somebody find their own unique voice then, if they're studying with you?
Yeah, well, I'm a very unique person in regards to how I speak, how I would speak to people, how you would speak to me. Like if we had the same person in front of us, how I would navigate that sales conversation compared to you, we're like completely different people. But if you try to speak like I spoke and speak, that person will be like, who the hell is this person?
Yeah.
Because you have to understand like that, how you speak is who you are. When I was working with Jeremy, he used a word called rationalize.
Yeah.
I've never said that word in my entire life. So when I would be rationale, it's just not a common word that I would ever say. So when I used to say it, it never landed right. It never had the same effect as what he would say. So I had to come up with a way of how to say the exact same thing without saying words. That's how you end up pushing and like manifesting your own kind of process and structure. Like there's certain words that you would say that I would never ever in the entire universe try and say, because I don't have the confidence and certainty and conviction of saying them like you did. It's the same thing with me. You couldn't speak like I speak.
Yeah.
Not that you would want to, or not that you could, or like that you would. It's just you get different sound bites from people, and a lot of it works, but you got to make it work yourself. So how you need to do it's the biggest thing is, yes, you can get the education and the skill, but how you actually use it has to be built from you. You know what I mean? You can get the education and you can understand this is going to give you this and this word will give you this. But if you don't say that word on a daily basis and you don't use that phrase on a daily basis, then when you do say it, it just doesn't land right. And that person can feel it. Yeah. He can hear it doesn't land right. He understands the way that you're saying it. It's not something that you say on a consistent basis. So that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that I would like people to have is their own voice, never lose themselves. There's a wealth of education, aren't there? There's a wealth of education, from all different types of sales trainers or business coaches or everyone like personal development of Tony. But you always have to have yourself at the core of it, because if you don't, then what's there? You know what I mean? Because you're borrowing someone else's conviction and certainty, and that'll only get you so far. That'll get to your 10, 15K months, but it won't get you to your $500,000 a year consistency. That's the issue.
That's it. Yeah, I love it. Tell us, where can folks find out about you? Do you have a website?
I don't want anyone. I don't want anyone to find me. I don't want anyone to find me. No. My wife would kill him. No, we have the Facebook group and Instagram. My biggest platform is probably Facebook, which is the Objection Box community.
What's the Objection Box community Facebook group?
Yeah,
people want to find you.
Yeah, or Bill Welsh. There's not a whole lot of Bill Welshes out there that look and speak like me, so I'm not that hard to find. But those are probably the biggest two places. Yeah, Facebook or the Facebook community is definitely one of the places. Yeah.
What's your website?
Would you believe it, Eli? I don't have it. I don't believe
Don't
it
have
at the
it?
moment. No, I don't.
Yeah.
We've been somewhat snowed under over the last 2.5 months that I haven't even sat down to even plan it out, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
Yes, we have our click funnels and all that kind of stuff, but we, as a dedicated website, we don't have one. Yeah.
Awesome.
Funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're in 2022 without websites. Websites are
That
Facebook
went
groups.
into pretty much everybody drives somebody to a lead magnet these days, and that's going to be, your site / something free gift, and then people go get the free gift, opt in, and then you got them on your jam, and you invite them to the group in the email, and the email invites them to the this and then that, and then they become clients, and you hop on a call, and if you hop on a call with Bill, you better not show up with an objection, because he's going to handle it. He's going to put it in a box and ship it to your mom.
That is what we're renowned for. Yeah.
Yeah. But for everybody listening here, again, Facebook group, the Objection Box community, that's where folks can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, or even my own private Facebook. Yeah, I'm daily on it. So yeah, absolutely over there. Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing all this good stuff, brother. I'm always taking a lot of notes here when I talk to you. So I appreciate your time. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you. Awesome, man. Stay on, and I'll talk to everybody listening. I'll talk to you again very, very soon. Take care.